Thank you for listening to The Afternoon Pint. We are an independent podcast and we need your support. Please take a moment to hit that like, follow, and share button. Email us if you have an idea or suggestion for the show. Please send your feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And welcome to the Afternoon Pint. I'm Mike Tobin.
I'm Matt Conrad.
And I'm Claudia Chender.
Claudia Chender.
Yeah.
Claudia Chender.
That's right.
Right.
That's me.
Leader of the NDP party here in Nova Scotia. Mm-hmm. Lawyer.
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah. What
else am I missing?
I think those are the highlights, for sure.
Those are the big
That's
three.
the LinkedIn bio.
Yeah, that's right.
So mother of three.
Mother of three, that's right. I have
got
three
in-
teenagers.
You got into
wow.
politics.
Sorry.
Thank you.
When your kids were pretty small. And,
Yep.
and the main reason that I read was that you just weren't happy with the cuts to the school care system. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think it went back. So I am a lawyer, and I think, when you do that kind of training, you start to think about how you're going to use it. And I always wanted a role in public service, making my community better. I had thought about politics, and, life is about timing. And so I had three small kids, and that was when we saw cuts to education, we saw cuts to the arts. I had a husband in the arts, 2 kids starting school and another one about to.
What does your husband do? I'm sorry, that's interesting.
Well, he trained as a fine artist, and he works in arts administration now and has in various capacities for a long time. But we have lots of friends and neighbors who are, artists and at the time filmmakers and people involved in that. And so that was, of course, when the film tax credit
Probably
was
the first time I ever paid attention to
government.
politics growing up when I was younger because of the film
thing.
tax credit. To see it happening and disappearing in places like Lunenburg.
That's
and
right.
Smaller communities really messed up some places.
It really did. And I think it was a really great example of, we were talking a little bit about looking at the numbers, and it's when the numbers don't tell the whole story, right? So we saw the near decimation of an industry, and it looked good on paper, but the impact was so exponential. So I had been working, and then I had 3 really small kids, and I was turning 40, and I was thinking about what to do with the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And then my now colleague, Susan LeBlanc, got nominated to run for the NDP in Dartmouth North. And I ran into her in a coffee shop. It was then called New Scotland Yard. It's now called Morley's on Portland Street in Dartmouth.
Right on, yeah.
And I said, "What are you doing, Sue?" And she said, "Well, actually," she said, "we're looking for a candidate in Dartmouth South for the NDP."
How many years have you been in politics now?
Almost 10 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. So I want to go back a little bit there. Like, what did you do before politics? I know you were a lawyer, but that's a broad term. What kind of cases did you work, and what kind of work did you do?
I did a lot of different stuff. So I went to law school in BC. I became a lawyer. I articled with the government there. So I had a good sense of how the provincial governments work. And then when I moved back here, I actually worked for the Bar Society, so the regulator. And I did a lot of legal education. So I really got to know the lawyers and the judges and the landscape. And then I had 3 kids in 18 months.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Holy
so
smokes.
I had twins,
18
and then
months.
I had another one.
Okay, I was doing math there, and I was
That's
like,
right.
well, then 9
times 3 is 27. That doesn't matter.
So shortly before that, I went to work for a nonprofit, for a nonprofit publisher.
Right on.
And so I did that for a few years, kind of through my babies, as a little bit as a stopgap. I needed to be working. I wanted to be doing something that contributed, but I sort of always knew that on the other side of that was time for the next chapter.
Right.
So timing is everything.
yeah.
Now, do you don't have to answer this question,
Yeah.
but just for fun, would you have made more if you just stayed being a lawyer in law?
Oh, probably.
I think so.
But,
I thought I knew the answer, but I thought it'd be fun to just ask.
But I was never in private practice, and it wasn't actually my intention to go into private practice.
Okay.
Like, I saw myself doing public law, working with government or nonprofit or doing human rights work.
Yeah.
And part of why I didn't end up there is because I saw how slow that pace of change was, and how kind of abstract it was, how disconnected you are from human beings who want the change.
Right.
Okay.
And there's a lot of that in politics too, but there's also an opportunity to engage with people every day and hear what matters to them, and then go out and try and work on that and fix it. And that's the work I've always wanted to be doing.
No, that's very true. I mean, I ran in a city election in 2020, and that changed it's like changed my perspective on things vastly, is going out and talking to people in different neighborhoods and communities and things like that. So I can only imagine that doing it for 10 years, multiple times, and, you know, really almost every day, yeah, it gives you a different perspective on life, that's for sure.
It keeps you grounded, and it's a real privilege. Like, it's a huge privilege to be able to look someone in the eye and say, like, what's your life like? What's going on? You know, what's working, what's not working? What do you want from your government? You know, I feel like we're real. We hold a lot of trust when we move into places like the legislature and advocate for things.
So you know, getting into the politics, obviously, what made you, I mean, other than your friend, like, what made you really, like, say, like, okay, the NDP really aligned?
That was the exact question I had.
Oh, okay, there you go.
So weird.
Why the
Why
NDP?
the NDP?
Yeah. Why NDP?
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I wasn't really involved in the party before I got involved in electoral politics. That's not unusual in any party, I don't think. But for me, at that moment, what I wanted to understand was who was closest to everyday Nova Scotians, who really understood and was fighting for things like the arts, right? Things like healthcare, right? There were all these healthcare strikes going on at the time as well. Those frontline workers. Who was worried about education? Who was really going to take seriously the education for my kids? And, you know, as I said, like, I was kind of new to electoral politics, but when I looked at who was advocating for what, you know, it was New Democrats who were advocating for the things I cared about.
Right.
And if you look across the country and you look historically, I knew Alexa a little bit. Yep. And so she had always, in my mind, been like a role model.
Bit of a
and
hero,
so I think that set the stage historically for me. Like, here's this brave, amazing woman who's just fighting for people in all the best ways and not in all the most popular ways, right? And so, and so then when push came to shove, it was like, I'm not a Tory. Like, I was never going to be a conservative. There's lots of things that I just don't ascribe to around conservative philosophy. Yeah. And so, you know, if I looked at the two left parties, you know, Stephen McNeil's party was right at the center, or maybe to the right of the center, and I think he would say that.
I'd actually argue that Tim's probably more left than...
well, it depends what your metric is, right? But the Liberal Party of the day wasn't particularly liberal. Yeah. And so it was a natural home for me.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Because we have seen a little bit, like, it's so... Politics in Nova Scotia can be a little funny, because it does happen everywhere, but... As I kind of said, like, I kind of feel like the current Houston government is more left than what we had with McNeil's. And even the NDP have not been, like, you know, in the last 15 years, you've had leaders that have had different kind of focal points. Like with Dexter, a little bit more centered kind of thing than, you know, the kind of center left kind of thing, right? So, but I find Nova Scotia, like, there is a little bit of hopping over each other a little bit sometimes.
Well, the spectrum is narrow, right?
Yes.
And so you've had a lot of people who have talked and written about that.
Yeah.
Nova Scotians are reasonable people who want someone to represent them, who's listening to them and paying attention to what they want and working with integrity to deliver it. And so I think when they go to vote, that's who they're voting for, and that's our project. That's what we're doing.
That's a great answer.
I think that's probably why we have a bit of a reputation for voting people out as opposed to voting people in sometimes, though, is because we are narrow, like you said, in our kind of political spectrum. You can't go too far either way, and we're kind of like, whoa, it's different, right?
That's right.
But when we just know that when we're not happy.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, let's give someone else a go at this and see if, you know, they can make us happy. Yeah. I don't know. That's just kind of how I kind of look at it, but yeah.
You know, back to you there, like, what in your mind was the biggest transition? So all of a sudden you became a politician, right? So what surprised you most when you became a politician?
You know, it was really, I was pretty clear from the beginning that I strive to do everything with integrity, and I do it for my kids. I do it for other people. And I had 3 really small children at the time. I think at the time my kids were 4 and 5 or 3 and 4. I have twins. And so I just lived my life, right? Yeah. I think the reason that I was able to be elected is because I knew so many people in the community. A lot of that was through my kids and my involvement in my kids' schools. So I just kept doing what I was doing, right? So I would show up at events with my kids, and I would knock on doors, and I would go to all the festivals, and I worked hard in the legislature. But, you know, I often say, like, I when people would ask me in the early days, like, why did you run? I would say, because I was tired of yelling at the radio. And so I just got to, instead of yelling at the radio, I got to like make real speeches, but it was basically the same thing, right? Like,
instead of yelling at the clouds, you're yelling at the government.
That's right. That's right. But I had I had all that in me, right? Like I knew what I wanted to say. I knew what I thought looked better, but then suddenly I had a space to put that into.
So becoming a leader must have massively shifted your day to day, though. Like how is a day in the life now? I know that's hard to say or explain, but like how do you feel like now, your key focuses or your key changes from that person 10 years ago or longer?
I mean, I don't think I've changed that much, but the unit of measure has changed, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously when you're an opposition critic, you have your areas that you're looking at, but a lot of my focus was Dartmouth and Dartmouth South. And that remains where I live and where I'm focused as an advocate. But I spend a lot of time going across the province. And again, like, what an amazing opportunity that is, right? I get to see pockets of the province and talk to people that no one gets to. And it's really a privilege for me. So I think that's the biggest change. And, and I would say that my reflection on that in terms of what's really important is we're not that different. Mm-hmm. So I think we've had a lot of political dialogue in the last few years that's pretty divisive. Right. It's quietly divisive, but it's divisive. There's a real rural-urban thing happening. And it's not that that's not real. Like, life in Halifax is really different than life in, on the North Shore of Cape Breton or wherever else you want to be. Absolutely. But the concerns aren't that different, and we're not that different. People are worried about affordability.
Yep.
People
home prices
are worried about, you're taking the words out of my mouth. People are worried about housing. Yeah. They're less worried about traffic on the North Shore of Cape Breton than they are in Halifax, for sure. But I think in general, people work hard, right? Like, people are like, look, we're Nova Scotians. We work hard. We take care of each other. And we don't have huge expectations, but we want those promises kept. And so those are the conversations we're having.
How do we unite that? Like, because right now, as you said, there's a lot of issues to tackle. Mm-hmm. And the last thing we really need is like Nova Scotians to be like, and I see it online all the time, like, not everywhere is Halifax, right? How do we...
I hope you're enjoying a pint with us. We'll be right back. Your dream home does not have to be just a dream. Today's show is brought to you by Camilla Nejat of Exit Realty Metro. Camilla is the realtor who knows how to get things done. Buying or selling? Go to afternoonpint.ca and we will help with a personal introduction. That's afternoonpint.ca/Camilla to make your dreams become a reality.
How do we get someone to kind of bring everyone together for that, right? And I think that could be a key to success for a political party.
I think it's leadership.
Yeah.
I really think it comes down to leadership. And so I think we need... The reality is Nova Scotia is an amazing place because of every small community in our province. And the economic engine of the province is Halifax. Yeah. And we need to value both equally. It doesn't make one more important than the other. We need more economic opportunity in rural parts of the province without question. But we also can't ignore what's going on in Halifax, and we need to be able to address that. And a lot of that is just about language, about making sure people feel included in what the government is doing, making sure people see themselves in those choices. And I think we've seen a lot of missed opportunities, frankly, from this government. Like, we've seen a lot of, well, Halifax always gets this, so we're going to make sure that so-and-so gets this. We don't have to talk about it that way. Like, we can just talk about it.
The town and country thing, do you feel that, like, kind of goes all around everywhere, like all around the world is kind of not, or in at least North America, they struggle with these same.
Sure, I mean, it happens everywhere. Yeah. But I think leaders and particularly politicians at every level can either make it worse or they can make it better. They might not be able to fix it all the way, but they really can break it. And I think especially now, like, if we kind of expand out nationally, globally, like, this is a difficult moment. And Nova Scotia is I really believe that we are poised I always think this about Nova Scotia. Like, this is an amazing place. And the same thing that makes us be like, we don't like anything too different or radical. Like, that's also our magic, because that's what keeps us together. We take care of each other.
Yeah.
Right.
We've been doing it a long time. We know how to do it. We're resilient. But we need to focus on that coming together, on bringing folks together, because that's how we're going to weather all the storms that are coming.
So even and like that's the thing. So even taking away the divide of like city and country, but we also have some really great communities, like kind of these like sub Nova Scotian cultures that exist through it here, right?
Sure.
That have all different interests and pockets. I mean, we have African Nova Scotians, we have the Indigenous, we have the French, we have the Gaelic communities, and all this great, these cool cultures that can.
Totally.
How do you kind of like bring that all together and like kind of make sure everyone's heard and make sure everyone wins?
We celebrate it. I mean, we celebrate it. We acknowledge that our strength lies in our diversity, and then we tell that story. And we are not there, right? I mean, we've been trying to get the environmental racism panel to release their report for years now, right? Like, we know we have a pretty tricky legacy.
I feel like we're on a decline, if anything, and same as the U.S.
That's right. That's right. And so, but we don't have to be, right? We have the tools. Like, I was just at an event yesterday at IKEA celebrating Africville. Cool. So IKEA Canada and the Africville Heritage Trust partnered. And there's an exhibit of the Africville houses in IKEA. It's like...
Did they set that up just yesterday? Because I was in IKEA like literally a week ago.
Yeah, it's up near where the food court is.
You were there January 31st.
No, they just set it up. They just set it up for African Heritage Month for February. Yeah. But Juanita Peters, who runs the Africville Heritage Museum, she said, look, we are a beacon. We're a UNESCO Heritage Site at Africville.
Yeah.
And, we have all these amazing things happening. But you know what they don't have? Sewage.
Right.
Yeah.
Transportation.
Right.
Funding from the city, funding from the province.
Yeah. Right.
Like, so we expect a lot. We want to tell that story. We say that we honor that diversity, but we don't. And Acadians have faced those challenges, and Gaelic Nova Scotians have faced those challenges.
And the Indigenous as well.
And,
right?
Indigenous Nova Scotians, I would argue, are facing those challenges right now. I mean, this comes back to the rhetoric and the way that we have conversations with people.
Yeah.
And so I think we really need to pay attention to lifting everyone up and bringing people together, right? And this is why we're always
it's a good way to look at that. You have to kind of lift everyone up to bring people together.
Rising tides.
That's right. That's right. And
Rising
talk to folks, right? Like, engage with folks. People roll their eyes when politicians talk about engagement.
Yeah.
But engagement brings us together, right? And so we need to be able to bring these communities together.
It's some of the most important things that you guys actually do. And I think I've said this most times when a politician's on here, is people think that, you being in the ledge is like the work. But it's like 10% of the work, really. I mean, I know you guys can have long nights and stuff like that sometimes. Yeah. But, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 90% of the work is not done in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, we should be in there a lot more. I mean, we'll just take that opportunity to say that we sit the least number of days of any legislature in the country. We have no calendar. We have no appropriation. So we have a government that spends, billions of dollars over the budgeted amount. So we have a democracy issue in Nova Scotia. But that being said, that's absolutely a piece of what we do, right? We engage with folks. We come up with proposals, on the government side and the opposition side. Yeah. So there's a lot more than that, for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. A lot of work.
Yeah.
People, I just
like
to make
work, though. It's good work.
Is. Yeah, I think that's the only thing I always try to make sure that people see it, like, kind of thing. Like, when people sit there and think like, oh, they only sit this many days. It's a criticism on politicians. It's like, oh, we pay them these big salaries and they only work this amount. And it's like, they're working many days.
Everybody's working. Yeah. Everybody is, should be working on behalf of Nova Scotians.
Fair, yes.
But, I think Nova Scotians are right to demand that they see their legislators debating legislation more. That they have more of an opportunity to engage in those conversations. I mean, right now, we can go from introducing a bill to the bill being passed or voted down within a week.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not very, like, we often will have a 300-page bill land on our desk, and then they'll say, like, what do you want to say about it 10 hours later?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
Like-
God for Chat GTP. You can just scan it and get the high and low points in a few minutes. That's what I do.
Yes. Anyway, so it's
Yeah.
it's challenging. It's not the best use of our resources the way things are running there right now, I would say. But we
Okay.
do our best.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
persevere.
No, that's fair. I mean, so let's get into some of the issues.
Yeah, the
'cause, I
issues,
mean,
yeah.
you know, I
get there.
understand that you're big on the issues. You drove a campaign on healthcare, home affordability. I mean, you know, home affordability is a big one now, and I mean, I even see it. Like, we own our home. We were lucky to get in before the bubble,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? Started to go, and but you know, it's still running a home now is more expensive than it ever has been.
Totally.
And even if you're quote unquote making middle class or higher end of middle class, you're probably still struggling to some capacity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So it's not just low income anymore. It's a much bigger breadth that are having trouble getting through. So let's start with home affordability, because I think that's such a huge one. So, like, you know, what does affordable even realistically mean in 2026?
Well, I mean, I think if you would ask most, like, people have their own idea of that. And I'll say that what we hear from Nova Scotians is, like you said, I got in before the bubble, right?
Yeah.
Up until the last 5 years, it was like, if you got a job and you worked hard, you could figure out a way to provide a life for yourself, and
Yeah,
then if you want to get
100%.
married, for your family. Like, that was a thing. You just
Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah.
And I think we're still experiencing this first generation of folks who are like, oh, wait, I can do all the things I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I actually can't ever see a world where I can afford a home. That's really scary. That's really hard. So I think affordable, I mean, you know, CMHC has a metric, right?
Yeah.
30%.
Yep.
That's the mortgage stress test. It's like what you can afford, 30% of your take-home pay.
30% of your take-home pay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
That's what they say. It's affordable. Yeah.
So that's affordable.
And even like with this new, and I'll sorry to skip
yeah.
over you, but even with this new 5% down plan, I mean,
5
gosh,
to 2, 2%.
Two.
now. It
Yeah.
went from 5 to 2.
Oh, sorry,
That's right.
2%. Thanks,
Yeah.
Matt. Yeah, like
They're still
that's going to
doing
be a
that.
big old chunk of change. You're
It's
gonna
a
have to
lot
pay.
of, well, this is the thing. It's a lot of
Every-
money.
every 2
So
weeks, yeah.
2%, sure, it'll help people, but it's also going to put people in more debt.
Yeah.
And they don't have that choice. And so what we've said for a long time is we need to make different choices around housing. So we've seen for the last 4 or 5 years, back to our conversation before we came here,
Yes.
like this conversation about, well, if we just expedite private sector development, then housing's going to become more affordable. And that depends on a lot of decisions that people are making that presume that they're going to make those decisions on behalf of people and not on behalf of profit.
Yeah.
And-
That's the
and we
conversation
haven't-
we had before we started
That's
recording.
right. That's right. And we haven't really seen that. So we have seen more supply. We've seen the price coming down at the top.
Yeah.
But for most families, just like working families, like you're out of university a couple of years, you want to think about saving for a house, it still feels impossible.
And,
So affordable for those folks is whatever's going to get them in a home, but we need that path. And that has not been the focus.
And even if your desire is to rent, like,
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, the rents are so high. I look at what me and my friend paid to rent
crazy.
a place in Halifax 15 years
Yeah.
ago. It was a joke.
Totally.
Right? Compared to what
I lived one of my first apartments with my husband was on Pizza Corner. No joke. We were on
you-
Blower Street. We were there was
questions about that.
yeah. So there was a glowing crown on Blower Street for a while. You may remember it
Yeah.
was like a King of Donair,
Yes.
but not
Oh my
on the
gosh.
corner, but
How many
down on
fist fights
Blowers.
have you witnessed?
So we called ourselves the Prince and Princess of Donair because
Okay.
we were just above the glowing crown.
That's amazing.
But we paid $400, right?
Yeah.
$400 a month. Yeah,
I remember
Paul?
350.
Right downtown,
Me and
too.
my buddy,
Downtown.
350.
It was
You know,
loud, but we got to work okay.
Listen, I bet, yeah. Like that's the thing. So I bought my house roughly 10 years ago. So our last apartment we lived in was roughly 10 years ago, and I remember I had a 2-bedroom with a den, 2-bathroom, 2-level
Yeah.
apartment. So I had 2 stories, and that was $1,000 a month.
Amazing.
Huge. Like it was actually the reason. Like it was a big part of why we took so long to actually find the right house, because we lived in such a big apartment, and
Yeah.
Well, renting was actually a sensible option at that
Totally.
time.
It
was
right?
a sensible
Yeah.
Well, and so here's the thing, guys. Like, this is a great example of choices. So
Yeah.
we've said to the government for years, you need to either close that fixed term lease loophole and or institute some form of rent control like they have across the rest of the country,
Yeah.
so that people can stay in a place they can afford.
Yeah.
And the government refuses to do it. And they say, no, nobody's abusing this fixed term lease loophole. But in fact, everybody is abusing it. Otherwise, rents wouldn't be going up so high. We have a 5% rent cap.
Well,
right?
so actually, I'd like to explore that a little bit
Sure.
more. I mean, because we have a form of rent control in the sense that we have a rent cap.
We have a cap.
We have a cap, yeah. So explain the difference between
Sure.
cap and control. That would be
okay, great.
Yeah.
Happily.
Yeah.
And I'll keep it real simple, which is a rent cap is a blunt instrument. If you have a long-term lease, your rent can't be raised more than 5%. So what do landlords do? Well, they say, in many cases, honestly, that we're underwater with 5%.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like we can't afford the renovations.
Right.
We're worried about our long-term investment. The excuses go from good to questionable, but
Right.
but whatever. Like people have got lots of reasons that 5% hurts.
Yeah.
And so they look for a way around it.
Right.
Any business does that.
Yep.
And the way around it is you just sign fixed term leases. And so if you go and look for an apartment in Nova Scotia right now, that you're only going to find apartments that are
Really?
year to year.
Okay. Wow.
Pretty much. I mean, 70%, I'd say.
Wow, really that much?
Yeah,
Really?
because
I mean, I just don't know because
because
I own a
landlords
house, right?
know that gives, and it doesn't mean like, and some of those will turn over at the same price or at a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it gives the landlords the flexibility to raise the rent if they need to. Now, what rent control does, which again, many jurisdictions right across this province, it's not like a leftist conspiracy. It's a thing that happens all over the place. So what that means is just that you have an increase every year, usually tied to CPI. So it's not a political number, tied to an external metric that makes sense. How much is the cost of living going up? Okay, rent should go up that high.
Right.
But then you have like, if landlords are like, well, I got to replace the heating system or I got to replace the roof, they go to the tenancy board and they apply. And they say, I got to raise the rent more than that because I have all these expenses. Here, where's your receipts? Okay, great. Bob's your uncle. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense because the cap doesn't work. It's toothless. And we have a government that's frozen. They won't do anything about it. And so as you guys said, no path to home ownership.
Yeah.
Incredibly expensive. Rent's going up thousands of dollars a month. And so what's happening? Well, I don't know about you, but what's happening with people I'm talking to is they're leaving.
Yeah.
They're leaving.
They're leaving.
They're stuck in like broken homes.
It's cost the
if
same.
you break up with somebody, you can't afford to leave them.
That's the,
right. Think
Well,
about
and
how
seriously,
shitty
that
that's
has
another
a whole bunch
conversation.
of other implications
Yeah,
that we can
Absolutely.
talk
has
about.
Pretty terrifying implications
But
too,
this
yeah.
is so we know that it's as expensive to live and commute in Halifax as it is to live and commute in Toronto or Montreal.
Right.
And if you're 21 and you come from a small town in Nova Scotia and you've moved to Halifax to like get a taste of the city and do something cool, and you figure out that you can do the same thing for cheaper in Montreal or Toronto,
Well, it
you
happened
might
to me
do
15
that.
years ago. I went to
Right.
Calgary because I
Yeah.
saw so much opportunity to make a lot more money, do a lot more.
Right.
You know, it was a no-brainer decision, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love Atlantic Canada. I love
Yeah.
Halifax, and that's what
Yeah.
brought me home eventually. But it was the love, not the money.
And you could come home, right? And so that's so everyone's
Yeah.
going to do what they do, but we have to create that. And this is what makes me so frustrated because we talk a lot about resources lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our biggest resource is our people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My biggest resource is my kids. And the idea that my kids might not be able to see a future for themselves in this province really worries me. And
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
fair.
housing conversation, like that's what that comes back to. Who can afford to live here? And
Right.
and you know, we need to prioritize
Yeah,
that
like
in
if
a way that
can't-
we
have to
not been
control
able to.
something because if that's
Yep.
inflated and the groceries are inflated and everything costs so much, I mean, this January personal journey, I was sober October, but we were also eating extremely healthy in our home. And I don't tell me how cheap Gateway is before, but like
I don't go to Gateway.
I'm a Gateway fan.
I know.
I don't go to Gateway.
I love
I go to
Gateway.
Kingswood Market. It's on.
Yeah,
it's,
Kingswood.
Oh yeah,
it's on- it's on
Kingswood's
my
awesome
side,
too.
Yeah.
But I was just teasing you. But you know, I found like as we try to eat super healthy in our home for the month of January, we did our budget. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
right? Those frozen pizzas really save a few bucks in a pinch.
Sure they do.
Right? But imagine if you could only eat frozen pizzas or other items from your freezer that like freezer items, and it's just not. It's very tough to eat a very healthy, practical diet, and in Atlantic Canada with good produce.
I actually like. I agree, but slightly disagree. The problem, what I think is it's possible to eat healthy in a cheap form,
Yeah.
but only if you have the means to buy in bulk.
And if you have time.
And if you have time. That's
Right?
true too.
Huge. Yeah.
Most people don't have the means to buy in bulk.
No, that's right.
Right?
And so there's been lots of talk about that, like not even Costco or anything like that. Like I have the means and the need that I buy a lot of stuff at Costco because
Costco.
I have to, right?
Yeah.
I try to do like Costco in the market. Like
Nice.
that's where I
Fair.
try to buy
Yeah.
the bulk of my
That's
stuff.
pretty good, yeah.
But you're right. Like a lot of people, it's like, oh, great. If I buy 3, it's cheaper, but I can't afford 3.
Right.
I can only buy 1.
Or I don't
Exactly.
need 3. Like, how many cucumbers can a man eat?
Well,
right?
exactly.
That's fair, too.
Exactly.
That's fair, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we see that. We see that it's harder for single people. We see
Yeah.
that it's harder for seniors.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? People who, I mean, if we wanted to talk about taxes, right? Like snack size things are taxed in the grocery store.
Oh,
Right? Single
how many
servings.
times have I told you about stop buying snacks? They're so expensive. They,
Oh, yeah.
they inflate your
They
grocery
do.
bill insane.
They do. But if you live by yourself and you're older,
That
you don't
makes
have much of
sense.
an appetite. It's
Yep.
like, to your point, like how much are you going to eat, right?
Right.
That might just
No,
be
that-
what's available to
All
you.
very valid points. Yeah.
So yeah, but affordability is a really big issue, and so as you guys will know, this is where we spend a lot of our time is
Yeah.
trying to bring the stories about people who need to make those choices. And look, my husband and I live a really comfortable life, right? Everyone I know looks at grocery prices now.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I go to the grocery store to buy butter, and a few years ago I would have picked the butter I want and put it in the cart, and now I'm like,
Yep.
$10 for butter.
Right.
You know, I like stand there with my mouth open looking.
Yes.
And then try to make the
I
calculation.
mean, we
of
make
like,
cookies around the holidays.
Exactly.
My gosh, those cookies are like, they're like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could have got a diamond ring for the cookies.
My
December.
mother used to, like, no joke, bake for an entire community,
Yeah.
and now she's just kind of like,
She can't afford it.
She's like, you can't do that.
Everybody
That's
gets
crazy.
crispy squares this year.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
No,
So-
but it's really hard to make those choices.
Yeah.
That, you know, food is a love language, right? Like
Yeah,
that's how we
big
take
time.
care of each other. That's how we take care of ourselves. And so we really need to see more attention on housing, on food, on those basic things that make life
we're going to talk
okay
about
for
power
people.
too. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
we know housing, we know food, we know rate hikes might be on their way with with NSP after what was a pretty interesting year. So like before we get into any of the other spots, I mean, where do you think that the break could most likely be? Because that's the problem. Like, I don't really see an immediate solution for food pricing getting
I was
better.
thinking the same thing. Like,
Or
how do we
rent
get
Well,
prices down?
this is
better.
why our core focus has been on housing.
Housing.
Because
okay.
I think that housing is the biggest driver of affordability.
Yeah.
It is the biggest bill.
And it's the biggest bill.
Yeah.
And so I think if we could bring housing under control, there's lots of ways to do that, right? We talked about rent control. We could actually, you know, I think if this government was serious about housing supply, they talk about housing supply a lot, they would be incentivizing a lot more affordable housing supply. We have great nonprofits across this province who are building housing that people can actually afford.
I want to ask you a question about housing
Yeah.
and landlords because, and this is like, it's not an offense of a landlord. I mean, but I might aspire to be one day and have a building that I can rent out to others, right?
Yeah.
And just from a standpoint, are the small landlords going to suffer suffering the most, or is it more of the larger landlords, or is there like, I mean, is it like, I just don't really understand how that mechanism works.
I feel somewhat bad for the person who owns the house.
Yeah.
That's it. And
Totally.
they rent that out.
That could have been his retirement or her retirement.
Either
right? Yeah.
whatever it is, but like
Yeah.
it's like, you know, they have to rent out this house now for $2,500 or $3,000, and everyone's like, that's you're a terrible human being for doing that. But it's like, but my mortgage is $2,500 kind of
Well,
thing, right?
there's a couple of things I'll say about that. So one, I mean, yeah, affordability is hitting everybody, right? It's hitting landlords, it's hitting students, it's hitting seniors,
Yeah.
it's hitting business. Like everybody feels it. This is what I feel it when I look at the butter. But lucky me, right? Like
Yeah.
it should be so bad for everyone. But I think there's a couple things there. So one is I believe that actually if we had a functional system of rent control and residential tenancy enforcement, another promise that the government made that they then went back on, that it would be
Sorry,
better.
so what happened that the government went back on?
Well, we said you should have tenancy enforcement, because we have such an unequitable relationship right now. People have a hard time finding a place to live. We get a lot of stories about bad living situations.
Yes.
But there's no
Okay. Yeah,
proactive
I've heard
enforcement,
a lot
right?
of that, yeah.
So if we could reform the whole system, then I think it would be better for everyone. So again, if landlords had costs, they could recover them. Like I do think it would be more fair and better for everybody. But the other thing is, if people want to invest in housing, right? So these are real estate investors, whether you have one apartment or you have 500 apartments.
Right.
Like, not every investment yields a positive return every year.
Right. No, that's true.
And so I think there is this expectation that it's like you have to make that decision. Like, if you're in the fortunate position to become a housing provider, then you have to look at it and buckle down and be in for the long ride. I mean, there are a lot of people who say housing shouldn't be an investment. But, I think if there are a lot of people who that's how they're getting ready for their retirement, right? We know that. Or their kids leave and they're like, okay, I'll make a basement suite and I'll rent that out or whatever it is. We do what we got to do around here, right?
Yeah.
But we want to make it fair. That's it.
Right.
And so, I'm not a person who's going to go and say all landlords are evil.
No.
There's it's like
we wouldn't say that either.
We all have friends who have apartments or people we know who own a building or something like that. And they're trying really hard, but we need a system that's fair for everyone.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, in my role, my primary concern is that folks can afford to live here.
So what can we do to make things more affordable as opposed to just prevent things from getting worse? Because I think those are two very different things.
So one of the things we can do is that we can create affordable housing.
Okay.
So we can, and we see examples of that all over the city. So ADSM has built, the Sunflower, the Affordable Housing Association of Nova Scotia.
ADSM's awesome.
They're amazing. Has True North Crescent in Dartmouth, where there's a bunch of beautiful apartments, and there's really cool building techniques. So in Trenton, the old rail works now, they have a panelized construction factory where they can put housing together cheaply, more cheaply, because they build them inside and transport the panels to site. There's all kinds of innovations like that. We can invest in those innovations as the government can invest more in those innovations. So I think we can, I think if this government is serious about housing supply, this is the Premier's line, right? That the answer is supply. But what kind of supply? Because if you look around where we are today in downtown Halifax, there's a bunch of supply and no one I know can afford it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I go to communities across this province and I hear the same thing, which is, they're building an apartment building down the road. I mean, I don't know who's going to afford to live there, but it's good that they're building it.
Yeah.
And trickle down, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in 15 years, someone can afford it. But I want people to be able to afford to have a house in this lifetime.
Is there something that we can do to encourage private developers to want to build cheaper housing or truly affordable housing?
Yeah, and I think there are some examples of that. So there are programs that will kind of backstop those kind of developments in exchange for some metric of affordability. It's not usually that rent geared to income, but it'll be 80% of market or, something, a reduced cost. Those have some success. I know that there are some giant developers. If you look at Clayton Developments, who's building a lot of the residential housing around, in my district, in Mount Hope in Dartmouth, they are building. They've partnered with the YWCA, first of all. So they have some deeply affordable units there, that really cool partnership with them and the YWCA. And a lot of that housing there, they're trying to build at a price point that a working family could think about getting into those homes. But they can only do that because of their scale, right?
Right, yeah.
I don't think they're making money on those units. I think they're doing it because they can afford to live in it. So, but I really think the future of incentivizing that kind of construction is with non-market builders. So, because if you talk, when I talk to developers, most of them will say our job, it doesn't make sense for us to build affordable housing. We can't afford to build it. We don't make any money on it.
That's what I would think.
And they don't.
In
it's not that they don't want to in a bad way, but they're just it doesn't fit with our model.
They don't see the business sense behind.
That's right. There's not a business
equation.
case for it. It's a market failure.
Yeah. That's why, and that's kind of what I was just thinking, because I don't know anything else. So I'm talking on my ass right now, but is there a way that we could almost basically say hey, you're going to get tax breaks if you just build houses for us?
Yeah, but again, there are folks out there who are doing that. So Rooted, which is a nonprofit housing builder, they're doing amazing stuff. They're building stuff all over the city. Some of it's mixed use.
Yeah.
Some of it is a mix of full rent. Some of it's very reduced. And I think that's a really cool model when it's not just a super low income building, but you can have all different kinds of people.
I think that's awesome because you're not ghettoizing incentivizing people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And in the last few years, that sector, like we didn't have very many people doing that in Nova Scotia because housing was cheap.
Yes.
And then suddenly housing got expensive. And a lot of people who were a little bit in that world were like, oh, we better get really serious about this.
Yeah.
But now there are people, so Rooted and the Y and ADSM and the Affordable Housing Association, who can actually build that kind of stuff at scale.
Yeah.
And so I think if we're serious about creating housing that people can afford, those are the folks that we should
It sounds like
be.
they're adopting strategies from around the world that work.
They are.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's really great examples. And I think we can do a lot of that here. But we have to get serious about doing it. And we have to stop saying that the solution is supply.
Okay.
Because it depends on what kind of supply. If you're building a giant glass tower on the
Yeah.
Halifax Harbor, like that's great. It's beautiful. I really like seeing residential building happen in spaces that are serviced, that
Yeah.
are on transit. Like all
Yeah.
of that is
Yeah,
important.
yeah.
But I also know that only 6% of Nova Scotians are going to be able to afford to
So
live
when
there.
you see those giant buildings that are going up and it's like $3,000 rent, do you reject the idea that if it sits empty, that eventually rents would have to come down because they're just sitting empty?
No, I think they do, and I think they are.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think if you look at a $4,000 apartment suddenly renting for $3,600 with one free month,
yeah.
it's like that's not addressing the problem that I'm pointing to.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
so,
yeah.
so I understand supply and demand.
Yeah,
I believe
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, as we build supply, I don't think we can be just agnostic about supply.
Okay.
I think we need to be incentivizing supply in all parts of the market.
Yeah.
And, it might be that those towers, look at the office towers in Nova Scotia. Like a lot of the Class A office buildings that were built in the 80s are real cheap now.
Mm-hmm.
But it took 45 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think we have that long to wait. So
Speaking of that, do you see a difference in commercial rentals versus residential rentals because of the people work? Because COVID kind of did the opposite to each of those. It drove housing costs up because people were staying home and people were coming here and buying cheaper homes and things like that.
Yeah.
But then people stopped going to the office. So then all of a sudden people were kind of like, well, I don't need an office anymore.
I think that trend is reversing. I
it?
actually
Okay.
think commercial rents are pretty strong in Halifax right now. We're a bit of an outlier that way, but I think, all
key areas that's still
all the orders
low,
of government are now ordering people. I mean, we can talk about that, but
Yeah.
are ordering people back to work.
Yes.
And I think a lot of offices are moving away from that kind
Yeah.
of fully remote model. I think that's also why we're losing some folks in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, well, actually, so I want to move us along a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a perfect segue, workers and economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so this has been something you've been leading with recently, too. Like, do you feel, or do you have any idea where the next middle-class job engine would be here in Nova Scotia? Do you have any kind of thoughts from your end on what that could be? I hope you're enjoying a pint with us. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Chip here from Don't Overthink It Chip. Big shout out to the Afternoon Pint Media team for managing my content creator career. If your business needs support, big or small, hit up Afternoon Pint and learn more about our reputation for boosting foot traffic with curated storytelling for your business.
I mean, during COVID, there was a lot of conversation about the caring economy. And there's one economist who would talk a lot about how really our good middle class jobs now are that caring economy. It's a pretty female dominated workforce. So it's nursing, it's childcare.
Shout out to Andrea.
Yeah, his spouse is a nurse.
Yeah.
Well, but those are the good jobs. Those are you go to work, you work hard. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's shift work.
Yeah.
But you get a paycheck that can mostly cover your essentials, right? I think that's where we see it. I mean, Nova Scotia loves the next big thing. We have a premier who's, throwing spaghetti at the wall in every direction around resource extraction.
Which is good and bad at parts. I won't get into that.
Sure,
but I mean,
sure.
We'll get into that in a minute.
I appreciate the fact that he is trying and
Yeah.
I love spaghetti at wall in a weird, but we're both diagnosed ADHD, so
right.
Of course we do.
We throw spaghetti at walls all the time.
All the time.
That's pretty much all we do is throw
Rather
spaghetti
get
at
no
walls.
spaghetti
Let's see if this works. But no, I know what you're saying. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think, if we look at what's in front of us in Nova Scotia again, I think our greatest resource is our people.
Yes.
I think we have people who, you know, who like to work hard, who value honest work. And I think where those jobs are, and those jobs exist right now, right, are in healthcare, on the front lines of healthcare,
It is.
teaching, right?
Yep.
We need teachers. It's like those professions that kind of help us, for lack of a better word. And so I think right now, that's where it is. That's where those jobs are. I think we need to continue to convince our young folks that those are jobs worthy of having.
I want to add to that, and
Yeah.
I support everything you're saying, and throw back to your partner at the beginning of this episode, the arts community.
Yeah.
I mean, man, like I it's something to me that has been undervalued for far too long.
Huge.
Small credit to Mr. Tim Houston. He did kind of recognize it, and he did help with the film industry.
Totally.
It changed the perspective on a lot of people's politics when he did that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No,
and,
I think
and
the
I mean,
arts
yeah,
industry
there's
for
ups
sure.
and downs, but yeah, like, you know, if you really supercharge the value of arts in your community, the value of everything from theater to acting to painting to everything, all of a sudden you create an entirely new environment that brings more tourism, that brings better paying jobs and more value into that type of work.
Totally.
Right? And I think it just shouldn't be ignored. I think it's something that Halifax wants, because you always see these bubbles and these things that come up, and they seem to just get almost just there where we become so dominant and then they fizzle.
And we have amazing artistic traditions, right?
Amazing.
We have amazing musicians.
Yeah.
We have amazing crafts. Like we were talking about the Acadian community.
Like the most in Canada.
Yeah.
It's one of our best resources.
I think it's something that, talking about keeping people, having a viable entertainment industry keeps people.
Yeah.
Because people are like, well, I can just go to Toronto and I can see everything, right? I can experience everything. I can go to a Leafs game, let them let me down, or I can, you know, go to like some crazy concert, Taylor Swift 5 nights in a row, or things like that, right? And we could do that. And I was actually talking to someone this week he was from here, went away, came back, and he's like, Nova Scotia, Halifax particularly, has the opportunity to be the Nashville of Canada.
Yeah.
And we don't.
I love that concept.
Totally.
He's like, we don't push it enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have to incentivize that, and we have to remember the role that plays, right? So the story that you're telling is such, and I think that's what the Liberals missed when they cut the film tax credit, was like having young, creative people in your city, and this has been proven by study after study, makes a difference in your economy, makes a difference in whether people want to live there, and gives people opportunity.
Gives people an outlet, makes a more peaceful, harmonious place to live, right? It's less drab and depressing.
I'm living in Joel Plaskett's world on the Dartmouth side, right?
Well,
and you see what artists like Joel have done for the province,
Plaskett,
have done for my community, for sure.
If you can get him on this show, I'm not sure if I had a line out to him recently, but we've certainly emailed him before. He hasn't showed up yet, but we'd love to have him on.
Yeah, but the other thing I'll say on the economy is, you know, I also think we can't ignore the sectors that really make a difference in Nova Scotia right now, which are, you know, and our universities play a huge role in that.
Right.
So innovation and technology and ocean technology, we have huge investments in security and defense coming down the line.
And how do you feel about that? Like the security and defense investments, good, bad?
I think it's really important for our economy. I think the reality is that we are, you know, we have a strong military presence in our province. We have a lot of amazing innovation that happens adjacent to that. So we're the headquarters of NATO Diana, which a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Here in downtown Halifax. And there's a bunch of civilian tech that comes out of all of that we are poised to actually take advantage of and to monetize and to work with in ways that provide economic boosts, but also jobs. Right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm on the same page with you
we're
there
on the
too.
list for a sub-servicing station.
Awesome.
We know how important that is for us right now. So I think there's lots of opportunity.
And we've had people on this show who've talked about some of the tech that they're building, and they're right here in Halifax.
It's amazing.
So it's mind-blowing sometimes, right?
Yeah, we have Volta, which is a great incubator.
Yep.
And then
I had an American
William
friend
Burt.
introduce me to a guy in Halifax that we never knew would have existed, and we sat down with him, and he was building these like miraculous AI models. Already had a few ventures successful under his belt, and
It's crazy. Yeah, it took a guy from Colorado to like let us know that this guy existed here.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that
Kind of thing,
crazy?
right?
A lot of that stuff happens. And so it's about, as I say, I think I get frustrated because I hear the government talking about a lot of like, in the future we could do this, or the next big thing, right? We really have a little bit of next big thing-itis, I think, in our province.
Okay.
And there's lots of examples through history of that.
Yeah.
And it's great. We need to be chasing economic opportunity, absolutely. But we can't forget what we have. And I think we have to spend a little bit more time nurturing and supporting that too.
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest question, I'm sure you get this, I'm confident you get this, is probably the most common question people ask NDP. How do we pay for it all? How do we pay for all the things that we want? Because, I mean, nursing, that's great, but that's obviously comes from public. My wife's a teacher.
Yeah.
Obviously, very hard job.
Yeah.
Also comes from public and things like that. So how do we make sure that we invest in both of those things, education and healthcare, and pay for it?
Yeah, I need a more specific question. I mean, I feel like, it's so interesting. So the first election I ran in, we projected a deficit in our election platform. And so that was the question. The NDP wants to spend. How are they going to pay for it all? The first election after Tim Houston was elected, he stood on the floor of the legislature and said, I'm going to spend $13.6 billion this year. I'm going to spend more than any government's ever spent.
Yep.
I'm going to spend as long as I have to deliver every single thing everyone wants. And everyone applauded. And no one asked, how are you going to pay for it?
That's fair.
And so, I think it's about making choices.
Yeah.
And I think it's about having the things that people need and want and the things that are going to make people productive and stay here and work hard.
Yeah.
It's about investment, right? And so, one of my frustrations is we leave a lot of federal dollars on the table.
Okay.
Right? We signed a federal childcare deal for $10 a day.
Yeah.
5 other provinces who signed that deal have $10 a day childcare.
It's not 10 yet. It's 20 right now.
Not here, but it is in other places.
Oh, it's 20 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not 10 yet. Yeah,
Well, and
we
it's
haven't
not
reached
going
the
to be 10.
Yeah.
Brendan McGuire said it's not going to be 10.
Yeah.
Well, why not? Why didn't we leverage that federal investment properly? $1 invested in childcare yields $7 in economic benefit at the provincial level. Women can go back to work.
Yep.
Children have a better start in life. There's all kinds. So we need to be looking longer term.
Yeah.
We number of other provinces signed the birth control deal that the NDP brought federally. We didn't. We left that money on the table. We didn't take it. If there are the same stats about investments in reproductive health for women and the economic dividends that pays. Right? I mean, there's all.
I love this stuff, by the way.
But to the question of smart
that.
choices, right?
Yeah.
Dental care, things like that. So we need to make sure that we're, right now, we haven't talked about traffic, but like everybody else is.
Yeah.
Most of the time when I come to a meeting downtown Halifax, I just want to go home halfway through. I don't want to go to the meeting. I get so mad trying to find a place to park.
I pushed the premier in the election debate to talk about transit, and he wouldn't talk about buses. Well, guess what? We have an old city, and it has a certain number of roads, and they fit a certain number of cars.
5 arteries. It has 5 arteries to get on the peninsula.
That's exactly right. And so at some point, we're going to have to get serious about having public transit. And it's expensive, but guess what? There's federal money on the table for that.
Right.
So part of it is getting really smart about how we leverage funds from other orders of government. And part of it is really smart about actually making the investments we need so that we have them when we need them. If the McNeil government had built the hospital when they said that they would, we would have saved tens of billions of dollars, it looks like now.
Yeah.
But we keep passing the buck. And so now we're going to continue to have this VG with Legionnaires in the pipes and
kind
everything.
of like the forum situation right now.
Exactly like the forum situation, exactly like the ferry situation.
Yeah.
We keep rethinking it every few years and the price tag keeps going up. But if we bite the bullet and we invest in things when we can and we have the fiscal capacity, that pays dividends down the road.
So, good answer.
Thanks.
Peter Dillon, that was the answer.
But
I do
hold
think
on.
about these things.
I do have actually. You asked for a more specific question because so there's a B to this, but I don't disagree with anything that you said. So I think it was a good answer. But if say there's an election and all of a sudden Claudia is now premier, what ideas do you have that we could do to try to start getting international money outside of like federal like government money back into our province so that we can start taking private money and invest in our people and invest in Nova Scotia?
Well, I think we have to make better choices. So one of the things that the Tim Houston government did was they dissolved all the crown corporations. Right? So this is a government that doesn't really seem to like to listen to good advice.
What does that mean in layman's terms to a person?
So the example I'm going to give is
me?
we had a crown corporation called Invest Nova Scotia.
Okay.
And it had a board of directors that reported to a CEO that was arm's length from government, so not held hostage to government's particular priorities of the moment, that made decisions about where we invest public dollars to leverage private dollars, right?
Kind of like for people listening, like the ACOA or the Halifax partnerships, like we were yesterday.
Right, exactly. But we don't have that anymore. The minister's in charge of it. We don't have any independent arm's length organizations. And so I think it's like what government can do. So if I'm the premier, I'm looking at how do we leverage public resources in the most effective way to attract that private capital. And in lots of cases, that means getting people who are really smart to do that. Now, I don't believe in privatizing our core services. I don't believe in privatizing healthcare. So, there's some things that are off limits. But as I said, I think one of our greatest economic opportunities is in technology, in ocean tech, in life sciences. Like, we have amazing people doing amazing things there. They need to attract capital. Let's get out. Like, I don't think holding our biggest research university hostage and not supporting them fully is a good path to that, which I think is what this government is doing.
And how are they doing that? And I'm just only asking because I don't know.
Well, this government brought in a really controversial bill in the last session that really gave them a huge amount of control over academic institutions in the province. On some level, it's good to have some control. We have a lot of public dollars in those institutions, but they have to be independent, right? For a university to be well respected, to do world-class work, that can't run off the side of a premier's desk or a minister. Like that's a different project. They have a big deficit. We haven't seen a lot of kind of funding and assistance forthcoming for that. Again, it's investment, but we have researchers like, folks making world-class batteries that are coming out of Dow, right? We have world-class research leveraging private dollars. We want to make sure we keep that flow going. We have the Verschuren Center at CBU is really similar. We have Neptune here in Dartmouth. So we have a lot of tech, and I think we need to find ways that we can leverage public dollars to bring in that private investment that's going to bring those amazing things to market. And then we have the opportunity to say, those came from Nova Scotia.
Right.
Why don't you come down too?
How do you feel about the deal just signed with Massachusetts?
It's not a deal.
Well, yeah, I guess it's not a deal yet, but it's
I mean, I really do believe that this government loves a photo op.
Make sure everyone listening knows what the deal is.
Oh, yeah, okay, so, yeah.
Tell us what the deal is.
Well,
Tell us what the deal is.
They signed, it's so funny because, like, I don't hate the idea. I love the idea of us, like, investing in renewable energy.
Yeah.
And then I'll emphasize we can come through with everything. Because, I do think we should use our wind and we should use our tidal power.
It's a wind energy deal.
Wind energy deal. If we can get, really get those renewable energy to the level they say they can.
Yeah.
They're saying, like, we can supply as, like, something like 25% of Canada.
Okay, here's
the power. Yeah.
So Wind West.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
I love the idea.
I love the idea.
Yeah.
Everyone loves the idea.
Yeah.
It's just an idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't actually have any of the capacity. Like, we don't even have the capacity to, like, take those windmills into our ports, right? Yeah. It's a long road.
Yeah.
We have no private sector proponents. We have it's a brochure and a video.
Yeah.
Great brochure, great video. Love it.
Yeah.
It'll take decades.
Yes.
That's fine. I like long-term investments.
Okay.
So then the premier goes to Massachusetts and they announce that someday, if Wind West gets built, we'll cooperate with Massachusetts on helping with their energy needs.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, that feels like
and America hasn't been shaky at all lately. I trust this.
Well, you know what?
And next week, Tim's going to be in New York making some other similar announcement. And at some point, I think Nova Scotians are going to have to ask, like, what about what's going on here in Nova Scotia today?
Yeah.
So yes, we need to work on long-term opportunity, but he's the Minister of Energy. So why don't you spend less time talking about what might happen in 20 years and photo ops? We had a similar photo op with Stephen Lecce from Ontario not long ago about nuclear energy. Again, doesn't exist, not a thing, not real, but there's a great photo and there's a great story.
Yeah.
Like, let's spend less time on that and more time figuring out our own domestic energy mix. Like, he's the energy minister posture. What's going on with Nova Scotia
So domestic
Power?
energy, would you mean like solar panels? Like what would you,
I'm like figuring out a way for people to afford their bills and keep their
Yeah.
lights on, figuring
Yeah.
out a way to have a utility that is responsible
Yeah.
to Nova Scotians, legislating that utility properly. Like, it's a mess. We all know that, right? That is something I think government needs to be paying attention to.
This is kind of like the capitalistic leftist in me, if that's a thing.
Sure.
I would love to see us get to the point where we could produce that amount of energy and sell it to the rest of Canada and give free energy to Nova Scotians.
Yeah, but you know what?
That would be awesome.
In all of this conversation about Wind West, like
Yeah.
we don't even have a transmission system that could take any of that. Like, that's not even anticipated as part of the project.
Yeah.
That should make people scratch their heads, right? At the end of the day, we want a government that's working for us and that's making
Yeah.
choices that benefit Nova Scotians first. And
Right.
so, yeah, I love that. That would be amazing.
So
But
you're
right
for
now,
wind, but it's just not a fully fleshed solution. You don't believe? Is that?
Listen,
is that
I
it?
think renewable energy is the future.
Yes.
Wind in
Yeah.
particular is
I
the
hope
cheapest
so.
form.
Yeah.
It just is. I mean, it's we have a fossil fuels are sexy again, but like, it's not going to last. I believe it's a passing fad, but we need that for base load and things like that. But the reality is it's like wind is the cheapest. It's going to be, that's the future. The more the Americans and the Albertans for that matter, don't want to get on that train, the better it is for us. Let's build wind. Let's use it. That's fine. But we need to pay attention to like what everyday people's lives are like. And we need to see a government making choices that puts that front of mind. And when we see Tim traveling around the country making all these announcements that aren't going to have an impact on those people's lives, I think people are asking some questions about that.
This has been a fascinating conversation so far. I just wanted, out of respect for your time, how much time did you have to be somewhere at a particular time?
I think we said an hour.
We did say an hour.
Yeah,
We're
I do
getting
have a
close to
meeting.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the 52-minute mark on this thing, Matt, and then probably we have to jump into our 10 fun questions just to close out the show.
Agreed.
This is just really quick about leadership and personal philosophy. And sorry, we've had so much more we wanted to discuss, but you're welcome to come back
Have
for
me
round
back.
2 anytime.
Yeah,
right.
we can do part 2.
I had lots of stuff for you, but actually, you've kind of answered a lot of these. I would say you've answered the what decision has kept you up at night kind of question with some of the things you've already said. And I believe the other question we had about staying human in partisan politics, I think you've done already a really good example of that.
Thanks.
And
I have a question though that kind of talks about like personal philosophy / leadership and everything. Is I think people, as much as it is literally your job to hold the government accountable and kind of scrutinize and criticize the decisions and everything. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to ask you a question that sometimes it can be hard for people to answer. What do you think that the current government has done that you're like, yeah, I like this. This is something that they nailed.
I love that question.
Well, I think
Good
you guys gave a
compliment.
great example of it, the film industry.
Okay.
I think that Tim and his colleagues saw early on that the Houston government was making a big mistake. I'm not sure if that was a political calculation or a calculation based on anything
could have
else.
been, but it helped people.
But I do think there were a lot of promises made in that campaign. They were going to bring back school boards. We didn't see that happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
There were a lot of conversations around accountability that they were going to give order making powers to the Information and Privacy Commissioner so they could hold them to account. We've definitely seen the opposite of that. But they promised that they would bring back the film industry, and they did it. And I think that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. It's
a good answer.
Yeah. Film industry, like, we're seeing so much now, right? And I think it does boost tourism because,
Totally.
look at Windsor. Windsor's seems to be on fire now.
Well, because no one can afford to live in Halifax.
Fair enough. Yeah. I guess that's kind of
I
true.
mean, it's a beautiful place.
Yes, it
We
is.
have a place down near Digby, it's where my husband's family's from. And for years we would drive through Windsor, in the 20 years ago, and say why don't more people live here? It's so beautiful. It's a gateway to the valley.
Yep.
But I think we're finally pushing out.
Yeah, it's
I
not
got
too far.
friends that just moved out that way.
It's beautiful.
I love Windsor.
It's
awesome.
so beautiful.
Yeah. So
great coffee shops.
it's
Great
time for 10
bakery.
fun
Great
questions.
Bakery.
Bedard?
Bedard Bakery.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's
Every
really
time
good.
I'm on the road, we the folks with me know. They're like, let's see if Bedard's open.
And just down the street, the Garish and
Garish and
Gray.
Gray. Yeah. It's a great town.
Best. Anyone listening?
Yeah.
Best chocolate chip cookie in the world.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
More chocolate than it is cookie.
Yeah, listen, both of those places are really worth the trip.
That's
Oh,
quite
yeah.
the
Yeah.
endorsement.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's pretty. We have to stop. My wife is like, yes.
Speaking of endorsements, we never even said thank you to the Old Triangle.
Yes, that's true.
So,
Oh, yeah.
so thank you, Old Triangle, for letting us back. We've talked to political leaders of all parties, I think,
right.
at this
this location,
establishment
yes.
now.
This is the
this
historic
very-
watering spot for
It
politicians.
is. It is very.
It's just
booth.
down the street from the
That's
ledge.
right.
Makes sense.
Yeah, easier government to slide into.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So let's move into 10 questions.
10 questions, but I got one real fun question that I didn't include here.
Oh.
And I thought about it today, and I thought it was funny, so I'm going to ask you.
All right.
NDP, is it orange or yellow, the color?
Orange.
That's 100%. Okay,
orange.
could just be my eyes. I was
Definitely
looking at
orange.
it, and I'm like, man, I don't know if that's orange or
Don't you
yellow.
remember
It's
when,
orange.
when Jack Layton, and it was called the Orange Crush?
The orange. Yeah.
The Orange Crush?
The Orange
Jack
Crush.
Okay, Jack
That's
Layton.
right.
I remember Jack Layton very
Rest
well.
in peace.
Yeah.
That guy was awesome.
Yeah, he was
That's
pretty
right.
awesome indeed. I agree.
Yeah.
All right,
All right,
10
10
questions. I'll kick them off.
All right.
Okay, so these questions are a little dumber, okay? So
Okay.
just
I'll get
relax.
done.
Answer them. Name a favorite Nova Scotia hidden gem food spot.
Bedard Bakery. Windsor.
There you go.
That was easy.
Gave that one to you.
Okay, cool.
All right, question
French
num-
bakery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question number 2. So, if not politics and law, what's another version of Claudia doing in an alternate dimension?
Mom and quilt maker.
Quilt maker.
Quilt maker. Okay.
Sounds like a movie title. That'd be
Quilter.
kind of a cool.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. What's one policy or idea from another country or city that you'd love to import instantly home?
Housing first.
Housing
Make sure
first.
that everyone has a place to live first and work out the rest after.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Great, man.
Question number 4. So, do you prefer salty or sweet?
Ooh, I like salty sweet things.
Salty sweet things. Okay.
Chocolate chip cookies, a little salt on top. Really good.
There you go.
Okay, so a book or a podcast besides Afternoon Pint. What's something like a book or a show, whatever you want to say, that you recommend everyone listens to or checks out?
A book that everyone checks out.
If not a book, it could be a show or whatever you want. Yeah.
Just your personal recommendation.
Listen, you know what? I have a 13-year-old son, and recently watched Ted Lasso with him because we
Okay.
decided he was old enough.
So good.
And there's something about that show it's about sports, it's about community,
Yeah.
it's about humanity, and I just think it makes you happy.
His energy is amazing in that
It's
show.
really good.
It's
Yeah.
an infectious
and
show.
it doesn't move away from tough subjects, right?
Yeah,
That's fair.
Yeah.
great answer. Yeah,
Question number 6, is it? Yes.
you're killing these.
Thanks.
So, imagine that you're a superhero
Okay.
and a villain has put in a dilemma.
I'm sorry about this question.
You can only save an adult man or labradoodles. Which one are you choosing?
So one of them dies.
An
You gotta-
adult man or labradoodles. I mean, do I get to pick the adult man? Like, I think I'd pick my husband.
That's fair.
If I have a choice.
No, you only got to save one. This is just a random adult man
Just a
or a
random
random
adult man.
labradoodle. You got a
like
choice.
one man or one labradoodle.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
pass.
Pass. That's fine.
Take a drink.
You can take a drink for that because we did ask Tim Houston something and he refused. He just took a drink and he
Okay.
just passed.
All
So
right.
that's fine.
Great.
Question number 7.
I have
what
a
do you-
cockapoo, so.
Oh, yeah, we got a labradoodle. So. I choose the man. What's one thing everyone can do with very little effort that would help make the world a better place? Did I say that right?
Yeah. Reach out to someone and have a conversation.
Beautiful.
I like that.
Great answer.
Yeah. So, if you had the power to do this,
This is your lawyer.
what is one law you would just delete?
Wow, one law that I would delete. Well, there's a restrictive covenant law that, makes it illegal. Grocery stores use this a lot. Sobeys uses it. So they sell a building and they say you can buy our building, but it can't sell food for 20 years.
Oh, yeah, because of the kilometer thing between the grocery stores. I heard about this.
That's right.
That's a bad law.
Charles Lebois told us that
Yes,
one?
yes,
That's a
Sylvain
bad
Charles
law,
told me, yeah.
and it should go away.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Everybody deserves food in their
Oh,
communities.
you might have already answered this earlier on, but number 9, Matt.
Oh, yeah, that's you.
Oh, is it me? Okay. Favorite Atlantic Canadian musician?
I mean, shout out to Joel.
All right.
What's up, Joel
Dartmouth.
Plaskett? Yeah. Okay.
I will say just a quick shout back to the law question.
Yeah.
Because Mike and I were pretty vocal about this last year. One law we do think that should be added, or at least maybe get rid of, is the NDA situation.
So I was just going to say we've done a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
And the non-disclosure agreements, and I know you guys talked to Liz, and we've been very involved with Can't Buy My Silence.
Yeah.
So non-disclosure agreements in the case of, sexual impropriety or assault, 100%. And we have introduced legislation multiple
And that shouldn't be a
times to
political
do that.
issue. That should just be, we should protect each other, other humans, 100%. Right?
Yeah.
Like, when the decisions like that are that easy, why not? I mean, it makes sense to have those laws for protecting intellectual property and only that.
But as we see in the world right now,
heavily.
We just have the
important
grossest
people
example
like to protect each other.
unfolding
That's
right before our eyes. You're right. Yeah.
So question number 10.
Yeah.
So if you had to teach one class in school, what subject would it be?
I would teach civics. I would teach politics. I
Okay.
think, people need to be engaged. People need to know that, not making a choice, not voting is making a choice about what happens to your life and your future. And so I love and take every opportunity I can empowering young folks to see themselves in the political process and to get engaged.
Awesome. Answers.
All right, so this is our last call.
9 out of 10. She did 9 out of 10. Great.
She did 9 out of 10. Yeah, that's right. So we have a last call question. So you can take this away.
Oh, sure. Yes. So, if Nova Scotians remember one thing about you, Claudia Chender, that you were trying to build, what is it?
A better province for everyone. A place where their kids can grow up and come back.
Okay.
Very cool answer.
Claudia, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Cheers to
Slower
you.
than you guys.
No, that's all right.
No, that's okay.
I take big gulps.
Yeah. We'd love to have you back for round 2 anytime you want to come on. This was good. We had so many things we didn't get to, which is crazy, but this was really valuable to us. Thanks you so much.
Guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys, for listening. Take care.